I walked into that conference room, expecting a quick check-in, maybe some feedback on our latest rollout. Nothing serious. But Declan Sacker was already there, standing at the head of the table like he had just won something. His arms were folded, and that smug smirk was plastered across his face, as if he'd been practicing it. I looked around. There was no one else. Just him and his uncle, Richard Sacker, the CEO. The same guy who had hired me 8 years ago when their security system was little more than duct tape and prayer. Declan wasted no time. "You're done here," he said, his voice as flat as if he were cutting a waiter's shift short. "You're not the guy who built their entire digital infrastructure from scratch." I blinked. "What?" "You're terminated. Effective immediately." I looked at Richard. He said nothing. His eyes were cast down, and he chewed his lip like a coward. He couldn't even meet my eyes. That was the part that truly stung. Not the firing, not the complete shock, but his silence. After everything I had done for that company, countless all-nighters, holidays sacrificed, family time flushed down the drain, he couldn't even utter a single word. He just sat there, letting his nephew wield the axe. I stayed standing. For a second, I thought it might be a bluff, a scare tactic. But then Declan slid a plain manila envelope across the table. "Clean out your things before noon. HR will deactivate your credentials by 1. I didn't touch the envelope. My mouth was dry, my chest tight. What the hell is this even about? I asked. "It doesn't matter," Declan said, already turning toward the window. "You're not a cultural fit anymore." Cultural fit? That's what they were calling loyalty now. I opened my mouth to argue, but Richard finally stood up. "It's done," he said quietly. "Let's keep this professional." Professional? After everything I gave them. I walked out without saying another word. My key card still worked for the moment. I grabbed a cardboard box from the mailroom and started packing my office. A couple of pictures, backup drives, my hoodie. No one said a word. No goodbyes. Just a few awkward glances before everyone buried their heads back in their screens. 8 years gone. All because of a missed party invitation. I walked out of that building carrying my silence in a box. But something inside me broke that morning. It wasn't just a firing. It was a fuse. And they had no idea what they had just ignited. My hands were still trembling when I stepped onto the elevator. Everyone on the floor suddenly acted as if I didn't exist. I pressed a button for the lobby, then leaned back and stared at my reflection in the mirror doors. That smug look on Declan's face wouldn't leave my mind. But the worst part was, I knew exactly when the tide had turned. It was the night before. I was at my desk, pushing to the final audit on our latest deployment. A firewall upgrade worth close to $900 million in long-term contracts. That thing had taken 2 years to build. It was our crown jewel. That's when I saw it. A calendar invite flagged in red. Mandatory attendance. Declan Sacker's birthday bash. 7 p.m. Penthouse. Mandatory for a birthday? I laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, until someone from HR pinged me 15 minutes later with a reminder to RSVP. Attendance is being tracked. Tracked for a party. I ignored it. I had more important things to handle. My terminal was running the final penetration sweep. I was 4 hours from full certification. I didn't trust anyone else to babysit it, especially not while half the staff was popping champagne under rooftop heaters. And then my phone buzzed. It was my mom again. She had been in and out of the hospital all month. This time it was pneumonia with complications. She said they were keeping her overnight again, and she didn't want to be alone. I looked at the monitor. The scan was at 72%. "I'll come tomorrow," I told her. "Just one more night." "Okay." I swear I meant it. I always did. I stayed late alone. Everyone else had left by 6. I remember watching the party photos pop up in the company group chat. Declan in a blazer 2 sizes too small, popping bottles as if he owned Manhattan. People sucking up to him in every corner. Even Richard showed up, smiling as if his nephew had just cured cancer. I sat under cold fluorescent lights, typing reports and running tests. I didn't think much of skipping it. I wasn't paid to raise a glass. I was paid to keep the company from getting hacked into oblivion. That was always the deal. I produced results, and that was my currency. But in Declan's world, that wasn't enough. I had heard rumors. People said he kept tabs on who showed up to family events, that it was his way of testing loyalty, as if he were building a little army of yes-men in designer shoes. I figured if he had a problem, he'd bring it up. We were professionals, right? Nope. What I didn't know was that he had been looking for a reason. Any reason. And when I missed his golden birthday bash, he finally had one. The next morning, I walked into work with a completed deployment, a clean audit trail, and a signed certification from the vendor. I felt good, proud even. By noon, I was packing my things. He didn't fire me because I failed. He fired me because I didn't worship at his feet. And now that fuse he lit, it was burning faster than he realized. I carried the box to my car like I just lost a bet. One sweatshirt, my backup drives, a photo of me and my mom at Lake George. That was it. 8 years reduced to one cardboard box and a folded termination letter. No write-up, no formal HR meeting. Just Declan and a representative from legal handing me a 2-page document with effective immediately stamped across the top, like I was a temp. The parking lot was too quiet for mid-morning. I sat in the front seat for a while, just staring at the building, at the windows I used to sit behind, at the office where I pulled 60-hour weeks, the place I had turned into a second home when my real one was falling apart. I pulled out my phone and checked my mom's health portal. Her next appointment was on Friday. The medication bill from her last stay still hadn't cleared, $33,000. All of it tied to my health coverage. The moment they cut me off, she would be back on a waiting list. And they knew that. That's the part that made my teeth clench. They knew. Richard knew. Declan sure as hell knew. He had seen me leave meetings early for hospital calls. He saw me turn down bonuses just to keep her private care steady. But none of it mattered when I skipped his damn birthday. As I was pulling out of the parking lot, Declan walked out the front doors like a man heading to brunch. Designer jacket, no tie, latte in hand. And he saw me. He smirked as if this were just another item on his to-do list. I rolled down my window. Did you get what you wanted? He took a slow sip. Don't ever think you're more important than my family. I stared at him. Excuse me. He leaned forward slightly, his voice lower now. You were never one of us. You just didn't know it yet. That one stuck. Not because of what he said, but because he meant every single word. He truly believed I was beneath him. I didn't respond. I just stared for another second, then drove away. I could still see his reflection in the rear-view mirror, adjusting his sunglasses, as if the conversation was already forgotten. Back at my apartment, I sat on the edge of the couch, holding my badge as if it might suddenly make sense. The same badge I had swiped for close to 3,000 mornings. That's when it hit me. Nobody was going to fight for me. Not Richard. Not the board. Not even a handful of people who used to grab lunch with me every Thursday. I was already being erased. No farewell, no message, just silence. One long, cold silence. I opened Slack one last time out of habit. I wasn't expecting anything. Still, the second it loaded, I saw the change. My name was already gone from the directory. Just like that, as if I had never existed. So, I shut it, packed the rest of my gear into a closet, and powered down my backup servers. One by one, it felt like burying a body. Then I took my badge, walked out to the dumpster behind the complex, and tossed it in. That was it. The end of it. Except it wasn't. I was halfway back to my front door when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it go, then I read the text. Leave the building. Cafe 27. Jonas Run. My chest tightened. Jonas Run. I hadn't heard that name in over a year. He used to be the CFO out of Worth. A quiet guy, always 2 steps ahead of everyone in the room. The kind of man who didn't say much, but when he did, you damn well listened. Then one day, he just disappeared. Retired was a word they used. No party, no LinkedIn post, nothing. I turned right back around and headed for the parking lot. Cafe 27 was 3 blocks down on Irving, a tiny, quiet spot. I walked in, And there he was. Same press shirt, same intense stare, just a little grayer. He was already sipping black coffee, one hand resting on a manila folder. "Sit," he said. I dropped into the seat across from him, still completely in the dark. He slid the folder over. "You're probably wondering why I texted." "No kidding." He leaned forward. 6 months ago, I filed paperwork for an LLC under your name, Callahan Systems. I stared at him. "What?" He nodded once. "I buried your signature inside a stack of compliance renewals. You sign it like everyone else." "Why the hell would you do that?" "Because I knew this day was coming," he cut in. "Declan's been angling for total control since the board gave you that retention clause." "You remember the clause?" I did, barely. Legal had pushed it through after our second international contract. It was supposed to protect me if I ever got pushed out. Jonas tapped the folder. "That LLC holds provisional rights to the architecture you built. If you're ever fired without cause, the company forfeits its exclusive license." I blinked. "You're serious?" He gave me a half smile. "As a heart attack." I opened the folder. There it was. Paperwork, timestamps, the whole legal web. And at the bottom, my initials next to some compliance document I barely remembered signing last winter. "You covered me," I said. He shrugged. "I covered your work. Declan was going to get the place with or without you. I just made sure you had leverage." The bell above the cafe door chimed. Someone walked in. I didn't look. "So, what now?" I asked. Jonas pulled a slim laptop from his bag and set it in front of me. "Now you log in. You're the owner, which means you control the access keys. They fired you. That triggers a clause." He pushed the laptop toward me. "And as of this morning, they no longer have legal rights to your system." I just stared at the screen. "Your move," he said. I opened the laptop. Jonas had already loaded the credentials. No delay, no buffering. It went straight into the admin shell I hadn't touched since launch week. My name was right there in the metadata, locked under the LLC, Callahan Systems. He gave me a nod. "Ownership transfer is queued. All you have to do is confirm." I hovered over the command line for half a second, then typed it out. "Transfer full access. Owner Callahan Systems." Enter. The screen blinked once. That was it. Jonas watched like a man seeing a crucial chess move. "Is it done?" I asked. He smiled. "Checkmate." 5 seconds later, the first ping hit. Then another and another. Jonas turned his screen toward me. Emails were flooding in from Ainsworth's system. Subject line: urgent system access error. License expired. Please contact Callahan Systems to renew enterprise authorization. I sat back, took a sip of lukewarm coffee, and just listened to the panic start to bubble upstairs. I could picture it. Key cards not working, admin portals flashing red, support staff hitting refresh as if their lives depended on it. Declan probably didn't even know yet. He was likely still in the gym or nursing a hangover from his party. Meanwhile, every global endpoint pass routine maintenance just went into lockdown. Contracts, partner access, international communications, all gone. They couldn't even access their internal VPN without hitting a Callahan splash screen. Jonas leaned in. "You ever shut down a skyscraper from a coffee shop before?" I grinned. First time. By now, the whole executive floor had to know. I watched the internal ticket tracker spike. Users were submitting error logs in real time. Why can't I log in? Did we get hacked? What's Callahan Systems? The best part was they didn't even realize it was me yet. But the whispers started fast. He built the system, didn't he? Why'd they let him go? Now what? Jonas turned his phone toward me. His contact on the inside had already messaged. Security just called it. They're freaking out. I stayed quiet, took another sip. They had built their entire operation on the architecture I had designed. I knew every protocol, every blind spot, every single line of code. They thought they owned it. They were wrong. And now that ownership was mine, on paper and on the server. Jonas reached into his coat and handed me a second phone. Encrypted line. Use it for any official responses. You're about to get a lot of them. What do I say? He raised an eyebrow. Whatever the hell you want. Across the cafe, two suits walked in, already on speakerphone, mid-shouting. They didn't see me. One of them was from legal. I recognized the voice. We need a rollback now. Get someone on it. They wouldn't get one because I was a someone, and they had fired me. Jonas was right. The flood hit hard and fast. By that evening, the Ainsworth board had called an emergency session. I wasn't there, obviously, but Jonas had ears everywhere. Legal teams were already drafting filings to try to claw back ownership. They worked through the night, suits in conference rooms, sweating through their button-downs, trying to convince the system they had lost was still theirs. Meanwhile, I was on my third cup of black coffee, watching from a borrowed apartment Jonas, kept for exactly this kind of thing. Off-grid, no trace, no questions. Declan's first move was predictable. He got on a call with the board and told them the system had always been work for hire, that I was just a staff engineer who didn't own a line of code. He said Jonas went rogue and the patents weren't valid. He was grasping loudly. What he didn't know was that Jonas had filed every patent 2 weeks before they fired me. Not under Ainsworth. Not under my personal name either. Filed and stamped under Callahan Systems, LLC. Clean, airtight, timed perfectly. I opened the government portal, typed in the tracking ID, and hit refresh. Filing ID Zeresto 87201, patent application challenge denied. Just like that, a smile spread across my face. That one email was a wrecking ball. Every emergency motion their legal team filed hinged on the idea that they still owned the system. But the patent office didn't care about Declan's last name. They cared about dates, timestamps, and signatures. And every single one favored me. I heard Jonas pacing behind me, his phone glued to his ear. Yeah, they're blocked. Yeah, full lockout. No, they can't reverse it without Callahan's key. He ended the call and tossed the phone under the table. Boards rattled. They're asking if this can be salvaged. Can it? I asked. He raised both eyebrows. Depends. You want to be generous? I didn't answer. I pulled up the investor board feed instead. My name wasn't there, but Declan's sure was. Dozens of threads, screenshots of the license expiration errors, speculation from financial analysts. Sacker air fumbles key platform. Major IP oversight could trigger investor exodus. Digital infrastructure collapse. Every headline chipped away at him slowly and publicly. One post caught my eye. A blurry photo of Declan, leaving the building. He looked like someone caught mid-scream. The caption read, "He told the board he could handle it. Guess not." Jonas saw it, too. Told you. He thought this was a bluff. I nodded. He thought I'd come crawling back. He was about to find out different. By midday, the company's entire overseas operation was running on failover backups. Most clients were already emailing Callahan Systems directly, assuming it was an acquisition. Some were even asking to license the platform outright. Jonas glanced at me. You ready for real offers? I didn't hesitate. Let them come. Another email hit my encrypted line, this time from familiar address. The board liaison. We'd like to schedule a meeting, open to discussion. I didn't reply. Declan's voice from earlier echoed in my head. You were never one of us. He was right. I never was. And now, finally, I didn't have to pretend to be. The board email sat unread for half a day before I even opened it. I didn't need to rush. I already had something better in my inbox, Helix Innovations. The subject line was simple. Proposal for strategic acquisition discussion. They weren't playing small. Their offer was for $320 million, clean, with full licensing rights across Asia and Europe. No nonsense, no long ramp-up. They wanted my system, and they were ready to pay. Jonas read through the terms with a lawyer friend of his in D.C. Everything checked out. I could have signed right then and there and walked away rich, but I didn't. I wanted Declan to see what he had lost in person. So, when the board followed up, proposing a neutral location with minimal personnel, I said, fine, one meeting. We booked a gray-walled executive suite in Midtown. No logos, just a long glass table and 4 chairs. Jonas came with me, folder in hand. I wore jeans and a polo. They showed up in full armor. Declan, his uncle Richard, their general counsel, and some junior associate who looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. The air was thick. Nobody shook hands. Declan sat across from me as if he were still in charge. We're willing to find common ground under the right structure. Jonas didn't even blink. He pulled the folder open and laid down 2 documents. First, he said, tapping the top page, Callahan Systems is not a vendor. It's the sole rights holder for the architecture formerly used by Ainsworth. He flipped to the next. Second, all patent ownership was filed and approved 2 weeks prior to Mr. Callahan's termination, which means everything you thought you owned is gone. Richard's face drained of color. The lawyer stiffened but didn't speak. Declan leaned forward, hands clasped as if he were trying to stay calm. We can still work something out. We're not looking to punish anyone. I raised an eyebrow. Is that right? Because you had no problem hanging me out to dry 2 days ago. Richard finally spoke. Let's not make this personal. It was personal the second he made about family. I said, my eyes locked on Declan's. No one had an answer for that. I stood up slowly. Jonas didn't move. He knew it was over. I looked straight at the man who had fired me without blinking and said, You didn't fire me. You released me. No dramatic exit. No last words. I walked out and left them sitting there, neck deep in their own silence. 3 days later, I was on a stage in Palo Alto. Helix Innovations had gone all out. Giant digital screens, branded lighting, tables stacked with finger food no one touched, and a podium with my name on it. Nate Callahan, Chief Innovation Officer, printed in bold white on black. The licensing contract had just been signed. The final figure was $940 million, split between tech licensing, exclusive regional rights, and my new salary package. I stood up there in front of investors, the press, and a dozen flashing cameras. Microphones were shoved forward, recorders rolling, and my face was on banners. A backlight pulsed behind the stage, as if I were announcing the next iPhone. I didn't crack a smile, not right away. Then I caught on the live ticker scrolling behind the cameras, right under the Helix logo. Sacker family empire shaken as former architect lands $940 million deal. That headline hit like a slap. I almost laughed. Jonas was off to the side, his arms crossed, just watching the whole thing. He didn't wave. He didn't need to. This was a final play, and he knew it. After the speeches, I did the rounds. I shook hands, answered some softball questions from TechWire, and avoided CNBC because I didn't want to turn this into a public squabble. But they all wanted one thing, the story behind the headline. I gave them just enough. We're focused on the future. I said into one mic, we believe in building things that last. That was all I needed to say. Backstage, I finally pulled out my phone. I scrolled and scrolled. There it was. Footage from outside Ainsworth HQ. Declan was getting into a black SUV, ducking his head as if he didn't want to be seen. His hair was messy, no tie, no suit jacket, no smile. He looked like a mugshot in motion. The comments under the clip were brutal. Golden Boy choked. Tech Prince turned paperweight. Should have kept the guy who wrote the code. That system he used a mock, the one he called just code, in meetings when he thought I wasn't listening, now had my name on it. Every license, every access key, every client dashboard, property of Callahan Systems. My mom called that night during the after party. She had seen the event on the local news. You looked good, she said, her voice tired but proud. Feeling good. I told her. Her bills were gone. A private nurse was secured. Her apartment was paid for through next year. She didn't say much more, but I could hear it in her voice, the weight finally lifting. After I hung up, I looked out over the crowd from the balcony. Industry people, tech investors, former competitors now trying to shake my hand. And me, I didn't feel like a CEO or some genius. I felt like a guy who got thrown out a door and chose to kick it back open. The money was great. The title didn't suck. But the fire that still burned was the real victory. The first thing the next morning, I sent the email. Subject line, renewal terms. Body, 48 hours. After that, every hour costs you another million. No threats, no bold text, no exclamation points, just numbers, just truth. Jonas had warned me this part would get loud. I told him I wasn't interested in noise. I wanted decisions. After I hit send, I left the office. No laptop, just my phone and jacket. I took a slow walk around the block while the city buzzed around me. Honking, drilling, half-asleep pedestrians dragging themselves into buildings they secretly hated. I checked my phone. Nothing from Ainsworth, but the director thread started pinging one by one. Forwarded messages, subject lines in all caps. Is this real? What authority does he have? Can we negotiate? Panic smells a lot like desperation when it's sent from a corporate domain. I stopped at a hot dog car on 5th and Morris, got a soda, and took a seat on a bench facing the building across the street. Two guys I recognized stepped out of Ainsworth HQ. Their ties were loosened, and their phones were glued to their ears. One looked like he hadn't slept. The other was pacing so fast his corded badge kept swinging into his chest. They stood right where I used to take smoke breaks, even though I didn't smoke. I just needed air back then, space to remember who the hell I was. I sipped the soda and watched them scramble. That used to be me, desperate, tired, disposable. Only now I was the one holding the contract, the one who wrote the code, the one who built the system from nothing. And I watched them walk right past it like I didn't exist. It turns out I didn't need them. They needed me. I checked the time. 16 minutes gone. The clock was ticking. Behind me, someone called my name. Another meeting to get to, another deal to close. I stood up, tossed the empty cup in the bin, and adjusted my jacket. My inbox was full. My calendar was stacked. My terms were public. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't buried. I wasn't begging. I was choosing. The storm was over, but the rebuilding, that was just getting started.